Joining me is former Hereford United player Stewart Phillips. It was 1978, 22nd of April, you made your debut against Swindon. Do you remember much about that game?
I remember everything about the game. I remember the build-up to the game. On the Friday afternoon, I actually had the day off school, and I knew sort of during the week that I was going to play, and I just more or less just took it all in my stride. I look back now and I think to myself, 16 years of age, wow, it was absolutely something incredible. It was incredible for me because I've been a Hereford United fan really from the age of 10. Dixie McNeil, John Charles, you name them, Steve Davey. I went to the Newcastle game, I went to the West Ham game. So, a few years later, here I am making my league debut at Swindon. I think there was about 8,000 or 9,000 there. And I did okay, I did okay. I just remember coming back from the game, mind, and John Layton was sat behind me. And he sort of he said, Stuart, you really enjoy, you're going to have a good career, make the most of it, because again it's going to go very quickly. But as I was looking at John, I could see that he'd had 4 or 5 stitches in his eye, he'd had a tooth knocked out, and I thought to myself, is this what I got to look forward to?
In the late 70s, football was totally different with a lot of racism rife on the terraces. How did you cope with the abuse?
I coped with it quite well actually. Things like that never really affected me. I think there were other things going on really, particularly in the stadium that maybe affected me a little bit more. But colour, no. The only way that I really sort of combated that was to put the ball in the back of the net.
In the early 80s, Hereford United had quite a few financial struggles. How hard was it as a player to try and switch off from those financial perils?
I think really you just have to act professionally. You have to go out each Saturday, you've got your own families, you've got your own commitments, and you've got to try and sort of maybe just put those to the back of your mind and just concentrate on the game, because that's the most important thing really for a player. You have to, you know what's going on in the background, and perhaps you're thinking to yourself, well, here we are, I've got a contract. Am I going to be able to fulfill that contract? Will there be other clubs interested in me? But really, you have to be professional and just to go on and do your job on a Saturday.
What are your memories of the FA Cup matches with Arsenal in 1985?
I remember the game that we played before, Plymouth, where we played very, very well. And we deserved to go through to the Arsenal game. The Arsenal game really was, on the actual day, the pitch was frozen, more or less. But the football that we played that day was absolutely remarkable, considering that they were in the old First Division, which is equivalent to the Premier League. We, in actual fact, particularly in the second half, absolutely battered them. And we should have gone through. John Lukic made a terrific save from Mick Carter, and we just thought to ourselves, here we are, we'll give them a game at Highbury, but obviously there was a different story there.
Hereford United was so near to getting to Wembley in May 1986, losing out to Bristol City in the Freight Rover. What was that experience like for you?
Great experience. I can remember the home game, we won 2-0, I scored, Ollie Kern scored, and again we played very, very well. The crowd that day was absolutely fantastic. The supporters in general on the big occasion at Edgar Street is remarkable, and they were absolutely rocking that day. And I think that if it had been the other way around, that we played Bristol City away first and then played them at Edgar Street, I think that we would have gone through. The second game, Paul Maddy missed a bit of a sitter, and unfortunately in the second leg as well, I wasn't fit, so I was playing quite well at the time, scoring goals, and of course I couldn't play in the second leg because I pulled my hamstring, and maybe things might have been different.
You were at Hereford United for 10 years. Did you feel that you stayed a bit too long?
Absolutely, yes. I think from probably the age of about 21 was ideal for me to go. For whatever reason, I don't particularly know whether the club put a fee on me that was a little bit too high. I was scoring goals for fun, really. I think I went 3 or 4 seasons being the top scorer. Things were a little bit different in those days, in the respect that you didn't have an agent. So you didn't really have anybody to try and push you on and to develop and to make sure that you went in the right direction. But yeah, that's just the way things panned out for me. I had a little spell really from about 17, 18 where things were a little bit difficult for me. I was struggling with a back injury. And I was playing lots of football, and of course I was playing in the old 4th division then as well, and really it was a very physical league, and it took me maybe 2 or 3 years to actually get used to that style of football as well. But yes, once I got to 21, 22, I felt as if I should have gone to maybe another club.
So you left Hereford in March 1988, you joined West Brom, then Swansea, but you returned in August 1990. What do you remember about that season under Colin Addison?
I really enjoyed it. Colin came back, again he was instrumental in getting me to the club, etc. It was a difficult spell. We started off quite well, but for some unknown reason we just sort of dropped off. Colin, it was very difficult for Colin, I think, to come back to the club. He wanted to do very well. It didn't work out for him, and I think I ended up scoring about 12 goals that season. It didn't work out for me, and we all moved on. But I mean, I enjoyed my second spell at Hereford, and you know, that's just the way it went.
Your father Archie was a popular director. What are your memories of him?
My memories of him was, I can remember I was an associated schoolboy, so the club signed me in 1976, and my dad was invited to go onto the board in 1977. So when he was invited to go onto the board, I knew that perhaps it would be a little bit more difficult for me than other players, but I believed in my ability, and I took it all in my stride. He was very supportive. He knew that the situation could be difficult at times, but you know, he encouraged me alongside my mother, and we both do quite well for the club, I think.
You're a regular visitor to Edgar Street to see Hereford FC. What do you make of the Phoenix Rise?
I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm actually glad that the club is reformed. I was going through town and people were saying, Stewart, we need a football club, and which we do, and now we've got that football club in Hereford, and they're doing particularly well. We need to get back into the Football League. That's where we belong, and it's going to take a little while. Over the next couple of years, they're going to find it more difficult. Teams are going to come and know the style of football that they're going to play, so they're going to have to adapt. And but things are looking very promising.